I can't explain why, but every time I hear Isaiah 55, I see a family dinner table. Maybe it's because of all that talk that you heard about wheat and wine and bread and eating and food. And that makes me remember the family dinner table of my youth growing up in Iowa, and then of my own family table here in Michigan. And my family tables have always been places of laughter and teasing and sometimes even torment. It was always a place where you could catch up with daily activities, albeit always in a chaotic, noisy sort of way. And my tables have always been places of abundance. As to the food and the quantity, you never doubted that there would be enough. There would be all sorts of pots of food on the table, all sorts of different dishes with seconds always available on the stove. Even with drop-in company or relatives that would come to dinner, I remember my grandpa would say, "Come on in, that's fine. We can always just add water to the soup." I didn't think about that abundance, though, until the Vietnam War. Because in my boyhood town of Pella, during the Vietnam War, many families sponsored refugee families, and many churches did, including mine. Our church rehabbed houses, and we welcomed the refugees into our churches and into our schools. And I made a really good friend. His name was Bing. His English was rough at first, but he learned it quickly. And after a time, we became such good friends that Bing invited me to his house to meet his parents and have dinner with them. So we rode our bikes to the trailer park. Bing was the only one at the table who spoke English. And at Bing's house, because there were 4 of us, his mother made exactly 4 of everything. 4 pot stickers, 4 potatoes, 4 glasses of water, and it was all on our plates before we sat down. And I remember wondering with a growling stomach if that amount of food would really be enough for all of us. And of course, it was. And as I look back at that situation now, I would say is that what happened to me then is that I was looking through this lens of scarcity. Will there be enough? How often have you asked that question this week? Will there be enough? That lens of scarcity makes you look at a situation and ask questions. Will there be enough help for me to finish this project? Will there be enough time for me to get all this stuff done that needs to be doing this week? Will there be enough budget when the bills start rolling in this month? Do I have enough capacity to meet all the needs of all the people in my life? Will this sermon I'm writing be enough? Am I smart enough to finish this course in college? Am I skinny enough to fit in with the cool girls? Am I athletic enough to make the team? Am I strong enough to face what's ahead? Do I have enough faith? Is it enough? Do I have enough? Am I enough? And into those scarcity questions today, Isaiah says, you can relax. Because here's an irony I want to tell you about, he says. The irony is, to get what you need to be enough is all free and available to you. What fills us up in life, what quenches our thirst and satisfies our ultimate hunger, What we need to be totally alive in life cannot be bought. You can't go to the store and ask the clerk for some happiness. You can't buy holiness. You can't write a check for a peace that passes all understanding. There's no pill that you can take that will make you keep your promises and commitments. You can't purchase a happy marriage. None of the things that matter in life can be bought. That's the first part of Isaiah's irony. And then the flip side of the irony, Isaiah says, that the things that you are buying, you need to know, nice though they be, are the things that will never satisfy. They are something totally different from the bread and water and wine and milk that satisfies. Nevertheless, that doesn't stop our world, does it? Nike wants you to believe that you don't have enough, and the person who dies with the most shoes wins. L'Oreal convinced you that only a wrinkle-free you can gain in succeeding friends. The lens of scarcity always wants us to believe you are not enough, you do not have enough. And so the world's solution is to buy more, work harder, hoard, push the guy ahead of you out of the way, achieve more, grab more, do more. But today Isaiah says, please take off that lens of scarcity, and I want you to start looking through life through the lens of abundance. And just as it did to those distressed exiles to whom Isaiah originally preached with this text, Isaiah's prophetic vision to us too is like a cool breeze that blows through a barren desert. Because he shows us in the text a different world, a world that we can see more clearly when we set down that lens of scarcity and put on the lens of abundance. And when you put on that lens of abundance, then you see and hear a God that says to you, come. If you have ears and can listen, come. Are you thirsty? I've got water. You have no money? I don't care. I'll give it to you for free. Come, buy milk and wine without money, without cost. Why spend money on that which is not bread? And why labor on things that do not satisfy? And I hope you hear in that the good news, because it's the message for all God's people, for every person who has hungered for more, thinking they don't have enough. Those who want more time and more money and more security and more strength and more health and more dignity and more faith. The good news is God's call for you to remember that from the beginning of God's story all the way to the end, it is a story of abundance written on every single page. The Bible, the good news, asserts that we originated in the expansive, inexplicable love of God, who loved this world into being. And because of God's abundant love and grace, our lives will also end in God. And nothing can separate us from that trajectory. And then you turn the pages to the New Testament, we see more abundance, if that's even possible, as everywhere, and that's not an exaggeration, as everywhere when Jesus goes into ministry, he doesn't just sort of kind of demonstrate God's love. No, it's an abundance of God's love to show how God is transforming this world. The blind receive their sight. The lame walk. Lepers are cleansed. The poor are freed of their bondage of debt. The thirsty are given water. The hungry are given bread. Strangers are welcomed. The lost find their way home. That one incident when Jesus took the 5 little loaves and 2 fish, that lunch of a child, and fed a multitude of hungry people. That was just in microcosm what God does with the world. He fills it with generosity and abundance. For God's economy is not about limiting and measuring and grasping and hoarding. It's about unimaginable, unearned goodness and generosity. Not because of my labor, but because of God's love. It's also important to note from our text today on this Worldwide Communion Sunday that did you notice that Isaiah indicates that God's abundance and grace is for all nations and all people, even those beyond the nation of Israel. In God's abundance, nobody can earn the gifts of God. There's no price tag on the wine and water and milk and bread. No, they are the gifts of God everywhere for anyone who has a grateful heart to receive them. Which is what I want to think about with you for the last few minutes of this sermon. Some years ago, and I'm sorry, I don't remember what year, there was a Thanksgiving issue of our Banner. And for those of you that don't know, the Banner is the monthly magazine of our denomination, the Christian Reformed Church. Being that it was November, this was the Thanksgiving issue, and one article, an author encouraged all of the readers, as part of their gratitude to God, to invite someone they knew who was poor or someone who was marginalized in society, to invite them into the circle that would be gathered around their Thanksgiving Day table. That's not why I tell you this author's story. I tell you this for his next line. And it said something like this: and if you don't know anyone who is poor or marginalized or fits that bill, then your circle of relationships is too small. What a good challenge from this text for us today to remember that we are also called to be as generous as God and to be just like Jesus and invite everyone in to the table. God's invitation to come and eat and drink without money, without cost, is a gift of generosity beyond all of our human imagining. All of us will come today empty-handed to receive bread from the hands of him who was pierced for our transgressions, from hands that are now raised in blessing to all who hunger and thirst. And what those hands offer us today is life and hope and forgiveness. And that is enough. Amen.